Right, good morning, everyone. We will get started with today's webinar. Thank you very much to those who have joined us already, and I'm sure, as normal, some more will start to roll in as the minutes go by. But welcome to today's latest webinar as part of our Sizewell C Supply Chain Business Support Programme. My name is Shorey-Mills. I'm the Sizewell C Supply Chain Engagement Director here at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. And this is our latest webinar in our suite of these that we've done, all aimed at the different small parts of the project that are going to help you as a local and regional business maximise the opportunity that is Sizewell C. As always, we've got speakers from Sizewell and also local organisations to help you on today's subject, which is very much around building a supply chain with health and well-being at the core. Today's agenda and speakers are, as you see on the screen now. So we have Ceri Bryant from Sizewell C and we have Leeke from Suffolk Libraries, who will talk you through some of the activities both on site and what's available to businesses locally in the way of support for health and well-being of your workforce. We will, of course, as always, have a Q&A at the end, and we encourage this. We love the Q&A. It's the best part of these webinars in so many ways because we get to hear from you, the audience. So please, as a reminder, and I can see some of you are obviously seasoned now with our business support program webinars, please use the chat function at the bottom, introduce yourself, let us know that you're there. In particular, let us know if you're now doing any work on site, if you've had some recent successes, some experiences to do with this type of thing. Fantastic to know. And also you'll see the Q&A at the bottom. Please put your questions throughout the webinar in the Q&A function. We will answer all questions at the end. So we will let everyone speak before we go through the Q&A, but we want to hear from you, particularly if it's to do with today's subject matter, but actually more broadly, if you've got questions to do with Sizewell C or anything else to do with the project or the chamber support, then please make sure it goes in the Q&A and we will make sure it is answered at the end. Now, these sessions are recorded. They then get hosted afterwards onto our website. If you've not experienced any of our webinars to date, or there's other subject matters you want to review and look back over again, please go to our website, sizewellcsupplychain.co.uk, and you'll see in the support part all of our webinar series that we've done covering net zero, covering obviously things like today with health and well-being, but also contract management and bid writing. So many different subject matters are there and available for you as a resource should you need them. So just as a reminder, as normal, first couple of slides, important we keep everyone's focus, especially given the announcements last week by the government around the energy sector, particularly nuclear getting mentioned in, Sizewell C, regularly getting mentioned now. What are we aiming for? And you'll see on this map, we've set this image, we've showed this plenty of times, Sizewell A at the bottom, currently going through decommissioning. Some of you may have seen the rather exciting photos last week of them using the explosives to start to decommission and take apart the turbine hall. So part of that landscape of Suffolk is not only going to change because C is going to be built, but actually A is going to slowly now be taken down. B, currently operating, has been there for now coming on to 30 years and is about to go through a 20-year life extension program. So the plan is to have Sizewell be operating until 2055, and then to the top, that's where C will be, with the construction area running off into the background. Huge potential for the UK. Circa 7% of the UK's energy coming from that plant alone. So therefore, around 10% of the UK energy coming from Sizewell B and C combined. Huge potential for the UK, massive potential for local businesses, and that's obviously what we're trying to do. And what's important is learning the lessons from Hinckley down in Somerset. Again, you may have seen last week, seems a lot of stuff happened. They actually put the reactor pressure vessel, so the exciting bit inside reactor unit 1 at Hinckley, actually went into place last week. So now reactor 1, it's got its lid on it, it's now got its reactor pressure vessel inside, and it is starting to get towards the point where that is actually constructed fully. And the whole idea is to replicate and copy the design and build of the actual nuclear power plant itself. That saves costs, saves time, but also helps to build a supply chain that's suitable for nuclear moving forward with the new priorities that the UK government has given it. What is important is that it is just replication of design. It is not replication of the entire supply chain. Those large tier 1 organisations will come with their learnings from Hinckley, but actually lots of things change. And today's subject is a great example. Replicating a build that started 10 years ago will have so many advantages, but actually 10 years ago, health and well-being was a very different beast from what it is today. Look at the focus on mental health alone, and the focus on the workforce. It's so important that actually we learn lessons through the Hinkley project and through other large-scale construction projects to make Sizewell a best in class. And of course, the strategic aims of Sizewell C are still very much interlinked with the work that we're doing, both from a Sizewell perspective, but also from the government's perspective as well. So you will notice on here, there are the core Sizewell aims at the top. Importantly, maximising UK content, supporting the levelling up agenda, hence our focus for our region, but also the government's focus. You know, Sizewell is a key part of climate change. We need to generate more equality across the economic landscape of the UK and give opportunity to people, and by that nature businesses as well. And all of this is done through the ESG metrics and appendices and in the contracts that will be awarded to those contractors. So it is not just words, it will be baked in. So whether that is a commitment to use local businesses, whether that is a commitment to encourage more diversity into the workforce, or even today to do with how they're going to look after people that are their employees or their contractors, it's all baked into contracts of everyone that works on the project. And I know Ceri will touch on that a little bit later as well. And social value, we go on about it a lot, but it is key. It is key on this project in all areas that you'll see on the screen. But from our perspective, number one is where we focus the most of our energy and efforts, is because they want to hit at least 70% UK businesses winning work on Sizewell. That will be a large increase on Hinkley, and there's every expectation they will comfortably do this, but they're going to do it by prioritising local businesses, so Suffolk businesses first, then hitting the regional businesses, so for us, Norfolk, Essex, Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, then the other regions of the UK, but to make sure that the biggest and best legacy is left in Suffolk and the surrounding region from the construction and ultimately operation of Sizewell C. This is that commitment. You know, it's not every day someone promises to spend £4.5 billion on your back door. And it is vital for us that we maximise that opportunity. And part of this is about the legacy of Sizewell, but actually it's the legacy of nuclear and the legacy of large-scale infrastructure and the industrial strategy that the UK is putting forward, that the types of trades and businesses that are needed on Sizewell C are needed around the rest of the UK and around the rest of the world. And interestingly, you know, our final stat on there that we are now going to have to update, of all the rest of the advanced gas reactors around the UK being decommissioned by 2030, well, you will have seen 4 of them have just been given slight life extensions that will probably change that stat slightly. But we have to address our reliance as a country on oil and gas. And coal as well, of all things. And nuclear is a key part of that. So actually by extending the life of some of those existing plants, then with B life extension and with C construction alongside Hinkley Point C, and then the future of SMRs and other nuclear technologies, very much nuclear as part of the energy mix is key for the future. That's where we can play our part. So how do we help you? As a final little thing, you know, we are there, as we always say, to support the project, understand what local can deliver, and we're here to help local understand what the project needs. We sit in that middle, very much supporting both sides. So from your perspective as the local and regional businesses, be you SMEs or much larger organizations, it's us understanding what it is you want to do, how you operate as a business and what you do, and us educating you on what you need to do to be ready for Sizewell C. And 2025 will be an incredibly busy year when it comes to contracts being awarded and activity happening on site. And as a result, we would expect to see more and more local businesses getting onto site and doing their piece. So as always, any support you need, we're there. We have our website. We have loads and a host of information on there that's there. But also the team want to hear from you to let us know what support we can give. So at this point, I will hand you over to Ceri Bryant from Sizewell C, who will talk about health and wellbeing for the site. Ceri.
Thank you, Ashley. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for coming along to this and listening to me. It's with great pleasure that I'm here this morning. My name is Ceri Bryant. I'm the Occupational Health and Wellbeing Manager here at Sizewell C, and my job basically is to provide all the health and wellbeing on site and to our off-site infrastructure in Suffolk. I also have a little sort of hand in the project as a whole, looking at how we can improve health and wellbeing across the whole project. So to our satellite sites in London and possibly also in Manchester as well in time. Next slide, please. So I just want to explain to you what our vision here is at Sizewell C. So with all massive projects, we always want to sort of improve things. So there's been a lot of improvement at HPC. I think initially wellbeing wasn't felt to be as important as it has now become. One of the few positives about COVID is I think that really made people sit up and think about mental health, took that agenda really far on, which is really, really good. What we are hoping to achieve here, and we will achieve it, is that we will make health and well-being equal to safety. So people talk about health and safety, but actually what people think about is safety. I'm constantly telling people that health actually comes before safety. If we have a healthy workforce, there'll actually be a safer workforce. So we are wanting it to be equitable. So that means that we will talk about it as much as we talk about safety. We will engage with health and well-being equally, and we take it seriously. We will have it as the golden thread going through all our people policies and processes. People are the most important thing in any workplace, but unfortunately, sometimes I think they get forgotten in the mix because as we're moving at great speed towards, getting deadlines hit and everything, we are very much looking at changing that. We want our leaders and our contractual leaders to be people focused, to really appreciate who their people are in all their guises. We're all different, and that can be really good and that can be challenging as well. We want a culture where there is psychological safety. So that means that people are able to say how they feel, that people are able actually to turn around and say, I don't agree with you. I think this could be done better in a previous job I did, and that they will be listened to, not shouted down, not made to feel that if they open their mouths that, maybe that will mean that they're off the job. So we do need to make sure that we have a psychological safety place, and we want to take this forward so that throughout construction going forward, not just on big projects but on every project, that health and well-being will be seen as being incredibly important, and actually this will change what health and well-being within construction looks like. Next slide, please. So when we look at well-being, many people just think of it as mental health, but it's not. Mental health is really, really important. It's as important as physical health, and actually mental health impacts us physically as our physical health can impact us mentally. But it's so much more than that. It is about our whole being. And so this is, I'm not going to go through this, but these are factors that actually affect us and affect our well-being. And these are things that we need to look at across the whole. When we look at a person and we're thinking of well-being and we're thinking of health, that we need to look at. So we're looking at workplace, we're looking at the physical, we're looking at the psychological, emotional. It's about relationships as well. I'm sure there will be people who are on this call who have had maybe their own sort of well-being issues. We've also or know people who have not been in a good place. Some people talk about well-being as being happy. I'm not sure happy is the right word, but it's being able to be content in your life where it is at that moment. And we do move around in well-being. There are some days that we get up and wow, the world is a brilliant place because everything is going okay, and then maybe something comes left of center. Maybe we get told that an animal, a dog, a pet, isn't very well, got to go to the vet, that costs us money. Oh my goodness, just before Christmas, can I afford that bill? And our well-being, can go down, or something big can happen, like, you get some really bad news from a health point of view, or something from a member of your family, and so on and so forth. This time of year can be really difficult from a well-being stance because of Christmas. Everybody thinks Christmas should be a time when everybody's happy. Many people are not, and that's, we do know that at this time of year relationships come under an awful lot of pressure and stress. Financially, people really do struggle, and so on and so forth. Don't need to tell you all about that, but it is about, we are looking at the whole person. So when we're looking at a wellbeing strategy, when we're looking at putting things in regard to wellbeing, we're not only at Sizewell looking at mental health. Next slide, please. So why is this important to your people, as well as to you as a business, and also to us as a project and as a business? Next slide, please. So here are some facts around construction health and wellbeing, and I'm sure you know these. I'm not telling anything new, but construction is dangerous. 51 fatal injuries last year. 47,000 workers had non-fatal injuries in the last 3 years. We're actually pretty good in regard to work-related stress as a whole, which I found this quite interesting, working on a project where I know that there's an awful lot of pressure on a small number of people to deliver massive things. So, but actually the amount of sort of work-related stress, depression and anxiety within the construction industry is lower than in other industries. So that then makes the next fact really hard to sort of stomach, because actually in construction we are 4 times higher than any other industry to commit suicide. And I don't know whether you saw the recent campaign where there were it was to raise information and also to raise understanding about the fact that so many people within construction, I think over 7,000 people have committed suicide within construction in the last 10 years. And that was enough people to build a city. And that's what that campaign was called. So this is something that we are very focused upon, knowing that many of our the people that come to work for us will not be Suffolk based. They will come here. They will live away from families and their support network. They will come with all that people come with. We are going to be, if you like, a little town here when we are at peak, and therefore we are a sliver of society. But you may have people who are working for you who will also Andy, I will answer that question as we go through here. A lot of what we are doing in regard to our well-being, suicide prevention, it's really important. We know that there's a drug and alcohol issue within construction. There's been lots written about that. So we have a zero tolerance to drug and alcohol misuse. We do random testing on site. We will do for cause testing, post-incident testing. Some people, when you come to work on site, your people may need to be vetted, and if people have had drug, alcohol issues in their past and they have a criminal record because of that, then they may come onto site with caveats. So it may be that they have to have so many random drug and alcohol tests while they're working for us. Take that incredibly seriously, because they're not only, if you're under the influence, you're not only a danger to yourself, but you're definitely a danger to those around you. Gambling concerns, if people, especially for our people who are coming from afar and staying here, if they haven't got anything to do, they haven't got people around them to take their mind off things. It's so easy these days to go on your phone and just scroll through. There's lots of worries around the phone use in that way, and gambling. You can get into gambling very quickly. Also, some people will be paid very well here, maybe more than in other places, and so if you've got a bit of money, that can fly through your hands very quickly. We are worried about the isolation of people. I'm very concerned about what happens to people when they're off work. When you're working, you're focused, you've got people around you, but it's actually when you leave site, what happens to you then? Are you going back to a room on your own with nobody there to reach out to. And, you know, I don't know how many men are on this call, and I do apologize because this is a generalization. However, men are not very good at reaching out. You bring your own concerns for me around physical health, mental health, and so on. You know, women are much better at being able to reach out and say, I need a bit of help here. So again, for me, it's about breaking down barriers. It's about ensuring that we put in place ways that men, women, but especially men, are able to reach out and say, I think I need a little bit of support here. Next slide, please. So for you, you know, it's a legal requirement, duty of care, looking after your people. There's a lot of regulation around that, you know, in making sure that your people are healthy. I understand that the Health and Safety Act is actually being looked at again because it's quite old now, 50 years old. So they're looking very closely at this, and most definitely work-related stress is going to figure. So, you know, what are we doing within any industry or within any workplace to reduce stress on people? Retention, recruitment of workforce. If you are a provider, if you are an organization that looks after its people, where people feel that they are valued, then people won't want to leave you, and people will want to come and work for you. We know that a healthy, engaged workforce increases productivity, and we know that, you know, if you've got a more harmonious workplace, then everybody is in a good place. It gives you financial savings. People won't go off sick so much. You may get more out of your people, so you need to recruit less. You become an employer of choice, and I think that, you know, that is a wonderful thing to be able to state when you are trying to recruit. And you know, people, you're more successful. Some of the most successful companies are actually companies who you know, have all of these things within their ethos. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for you at Sizewell C? Next slide, please. So there are a number of things that when you come to work for us that you'll need to get your head around if you're not engaged in a similar thing yourselves. So we have life-saving rules. There are two there, number 7 and number 8, that are definitely focused around health. We also have some basics around you know, being in work and coming to work. And one of those first things is being fit for work. We want to make people comfortable and have it quite normal that they can be open about their mental health. They can turn around and say, I'm not in a good place today, and that the people around them will listen to them and then support them, signpost them possibly to my team, or signpost them elsewhere. We also have a compliance manual that you will be given, and we would expect all of your workforce to work to those guidelines. Every day we have every week we have a topic, which is a daily and then daily safety messages, and that covers a range of topics. It could be around inclusion, diversity. It could be around safety, so, you know, electricity, say. It could be around a health, you know, mental health within the workplace, heart health. This week is drug and alcohol information that we're giving out on a daily basis, and those are part of your DABs, part of your setting to work every morning. We're really committed here toward volunteering. So you may have in your contract a clause that says that you will engage with allowing your people to have paid time to volunteer. I'm at EDF, I'm an EDF employee, so I get given 2 days paid days to volunteer. There are many good causes within Suffolk who will benefit from, you know, somebody going there, maybe reading with children, maybe painting, maybe doing some form of website. There's so many things: litter picking, allotments, walking people's dogs. There are many things that people can do, and so you will hear a lot, and your people will hear a lot about the volunteering opportunities. We do engage in zero harm, so that means that, you know, we are very much about making this a very safe place to work. So there are a number of standards that you will be given. There's an awful lot of paperwork, I'm afraid, that comes with all the contracts, your Annex A and Annex B documents. Really, please make sure that you read and understand those, and because there are a number that are around fitness to work, so that's drug and alcohol, occupational health and well-being. There's a lot of things that you do need to keep up to date with. Next slide, please. So I just want to tell you what we've got in place, what is to come. I'm very much somebody who is open to hear, you know, from you, because you may have worked on a project or worked elsewhere, or have things that you do within your businesses that works really well from a health and well-being perspective, that you might think, well, have they got that in place there? That might be good for Sizewell. I haven't got all the answers. I've come with a lot of experience. However, I don't know it all at all. Next slide, please. So what we've got in place already is that we are linked with the Lighthouse Construction Charity, who hopefully all of you know about. They are our on-site employee assistance program, offering 24/7 phone and text helpline for emotional, physical and financial well-being, not just for your people, but also for their families. They're the most incredible charity. They've visited site a few times. We're working with them to see what else maybe they could bring to our people here. A lot of people think of them in regard to counselling for the emotional side, but they do an awful lot from a financial well-being. And if you Google their, if you don't know of them, but you go online and you Google Lighthouse Construction Charity, there's a few Lighthouse charities, you'll actually see the full benefit of what they do. And they are open to anybody and everybody within the construction industry. We have mental health first aiders across site, and we want to increase those. We're very much about wanting to leave legacy. So if you're going to be working with us for a period of time, and you have people within your business who would like to train as a mental health first aider, it's a 2-day course, then we could train them for you, which would save some money. It would help you as a business, and it would help us across site. I think at Hinkley Point C, they've trained over 700 people to be mental health first aiders. They're not counsellors. They are people who can listen, and who can signpost, and they're just somebody you might work alongside. We have monthly topics for health promotion. We have a calendar every year. So we've covered things like noise, heart health. We've looked at drugs and alcohol. We've done a lot on mental health as well. Different things every month. We've got a wellbeing page on the intranet site at the moment. That's constantly being updated. We have daily messages, weekly messages. We have a newsletter that goes out across site, and to all the contractors as well, to send down to their employees. We have first aid and first responder provision. And again, this might be something that you might be interested in, because we will train your people as first responders. It is expected that in your area, so if you have your own platform in your area, or you're working in a zone or an area, that there would be able to be a first responder response. So that's FREC 3 trained within 4 minutes of a call going out, before the cavalry arrives. I'll talk about the cavalry in a minute. You know, that obviously that's a 5-day training course, which costs money. And again, part of the legacy is that if you have people that, you know, they have to be first aid trained initially, but you feel that you would want that provision, then that might be something that we might be able to help you with. And we have an on-site chaplain. So Clive, who is pictured here, he started working with us at the end of October. His job is around spiritual health, not religion. He is Church of England priest, but it's not about religion. This is about spiritual health, and he is there for all, people of all faiths and none, because at times in our lives we may need that arm around us. We may need to question. We may need to try to make sense of what's going on. And he is out and about on site all the time. He has already had his first gig in that he took our remembrance service. We've got a lot of ex-forces people on site, and that remembrance service was attended by over 100 people, so over 10% of the people who are on site, because we've got about 1,000 people on site at the moment, attended that, and it went down really well. And then we've got a wellbeing liaison officer starting in January, and his job, a chap called Harry, his job will be to organise events on site, to bring in local services, to do health promotion events. It will be to sort of organise the mental health first aiders, working with local services and local charities to see how we can take the volunteering forward, and move, just being around really, and listening to your people, and bringing in good practice here so that we can further enhance our wellbeing offer. Our medical services will be fully rolled out. So yesterday, I've got 2 contracts in regard to the medical services. The first contract was signed with a local company who are based in Manningtree. They are called Emergency Doctors Medical Service, EDMS. Very, very excited about what they're going to be able to bring on site for all of our people. And we're hoping that they will be, we've got a small medical centre here in Leiston of 3 clinical rooms, but we will be moving further into the site as the site develops, and we'll have, if you like, a mini hospital almost there, and the job of them is to reduce any ask on the NHS to the minimum. So that's what we will be doing. And we've got a wellbeing strategy for the next 3 years, looking at education of our people, looking at bringing things in, looking at suicide prevention, lots and lots of things within the next 3 years that will be brought into the project. Next slide, please. Oh, back one. So the health provision, we're looking on this in 3 tiers. So prevention of ill health, fitness for work, and a treatment service. So the prevention of ill health around the occupational health, and our occupational health provider, who will be doing things like safety critical medicals, pre-employment fitness medicals, health surveillance. We haven't quite signed their contract yet, but they are another local company. Again, I'm very excited about that as well. And as soon as we're able, we'll be able to say who they are. But we are looking at, as much as we possibly can do, is about designing out risk regarding occupational health. So at Hinkley Point C, one of the biggest problems that they've got there recently has been around welding fume. So we're obviously very aware of that, and we want to ensure that we've designed out as much as we possibly can any risk around welding before we get to that stage. So occupational hygiene is going to play a massive part in reducing that for our people. We are looking at PPE, we are looking at best practice. That could implicate a cost to you if we have a standard that we expect you to bring in. We are also looking at how much Sizewell will provide in regard to the PPE space. We are wanting to make sure that people continue to be fit for work throughout the whole of their time here. We may get people who come in who are maybe not the healthiest for one reason or another, or who are managing their own medical condition. We would want them, while they're working for us, to feel that they're fully supported, that they have access to medical care if they need it, and also to maybe leave our project with more education around their health, and also maybe even healthier than when they come in here. And then the treatment service, which is what I'm really excited about. So We will have an emergency presence on site, so we will have ambulances. EDMS will be able, if needed, and we will try not to this to happen, but medical issues happen to people on sites. There can be accidents that do need hospital admission. They can transfer to hospital, so we won't need to call on the ambulance services, so we shouldn't have to worry about the waits. We will have a minor injury service. So if you think about what you might go into A&E for, so you might need suturing, they'll be able to suture wounds. They will have an X-ray facility here. So if people have a suspected fracture, they would be able to assess whether or not there is a fracture. If it is fractured, they'll be able to set it, and they'll be able to then book people into the next fracture clinic at a local hospital, rather than having to send our people off site to sit in A&E for hours on end. So we'll be able to get all of that done. They are able to do blood screening, so they'd be able to do that. We'll have a resuscitation room on site. They will have a physiotherapy. We'll have a sessional GP. For our people who are working away from home, there will be a 24/7 GP helpline for them, working with Suffolk County Council around sexual health service, both on site and their online service, having access to that for people who are not resident in Suffolk. We'll have an in-house pharmacy provision. So again, you know, if somebody comes to see us and they need, I don't know, analgesia, antibiotics, that we're not then draining the NHS, the local pharmacists, by having our people having to go in there and depleting the service that they have. And as I've said, we'll be training in emergency response and first aid. We are collaborative, you know. I mean, dental is one of the things that comes up. Within the treatment service, they will be able to do minor dental work, such as temporary fillings, but we are looking at whether or not there is a need for a dental service. Dentists are like chicken's teeth. We could set up a private dental service, but we're also looking at, you know, could we actually help Leiston local community with that, because there isn't a local dentist. So there's all of this work going on in the background as well. But we might find, I don't know, let's say everybody is hobbling around because they've got foot problems. We might need to bring in podiatry. We might need to bring in chiropractors. Who knows? We will be doing life coaching. We will be, bringing in regular blood pressure checks, talking to people about cholesterol and about healthy living and so on. And we will change it to the needs of the workforce. So at the moment, we've got a lot of archaeologists on site. So we know there's a lot of MSK issues because they're bending down all day. We've got unexploded ordnance people on site as well. So there's obviously concern about what could happen there, because they are finding an awful lot of unexploded bombs and so on, if something went wrong there. So, you know, and in time we will have people working at height, people working in tunnels, and so we'll have to look at what we provide and tailor it accordingly. Next slide. I think that is it. Looking at, yes, thank you. So exciting times at the beginning. We are at the beginning of this journey. Very much health, well-being is on the radar, and we are wanting to ensure that, you know, we up the game in construction, and we take you along on that journey with us as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ceri, and thanks, Ashley. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm on a new laptop, so you never know the wonders of technology. Hi there. It's also delightful to be here, and many of the things that Ceri's just described, hopefully I'm going to touch on some of those things and highlight, possibly surprisingly for some of you, how your local library service can help support the well-being of your colleagues. This presentation is called The Heartbeat of Suffolk Communities for a good reason, and hopefully I'm going to tell you a bit of a story about libraries in Suffolk that will hopefully surprise you a little bit and bring to life some of the things that we do. And then also going to highlight some specific support that can benefit your colleagues that's freely available, which is very focused on well-being, but there's also a whole gamut of other stuff that we do that I'm going to describe, which will also be excellent, particularly for people either who are working alone or in Suffolk for the first time and may need to reach out and meet other people, or if they just want some free entertainment. You know, there's lots of stuff we do. So if we can have the next slide, please. So generally speaking, when people think about the library, they think about a quiet place. And often, there's the old stereotypes about the librarian shushing people. That's not really how we do them in Suffolk. So we can have the next slide, please. So this is kind of more typical of what one of our libraries looks like. Very vibrant places, lots of different things that very much focus into the community in terms of providing lots of different types of support that I'm going to describe in more detail in a minute. And it's far from a quiet place. It's probably the most important thing to highlight. We do loads of noisy activities. We have gigs, fashion shows. We do all sorts of stuff. And all of the books these days are on wheelable shelving. So they're also multifaceted spaces that often act by day as a library, but can be anything, like I said, from a venue to a number of other things at night time. So we can have the next slide, please. So you may not know, but we library service, we do exercise and movement. So we have Pilates classes, we do physical exercise, and we do those online and in our sites as well. So like I said, we have a very, very big and expanding program across all of our sites in Suffolk that enables people to move and do all sorts of different types of exercise. We have the next slide, please. We also loan out blood pressure monitors with the NHS to help people who have specific health issues to monitor their blood pressure. And we also loan fitness equipment. So you can borrow some dumbbells from your library. You can borrow all sorts of different types. I think you can borrow a swing ball. You can borrow loads of different things, either to use with your family or individually to help improve your fitness. If we have the next slide, please. And we also do loads of other types of specific support, particularly for families who may have some financial challenges. We provide warm spaces throughout the winter where people can come, charge a device. We offer free, warm, secondhand clothing that people can just pick up off our kindness racks. And we also, in partnership with the East of England Co-op, offer loads of life essentials. So most of our sites do free hot drinks throughout the winter, for example. And then we also offer a plethora of hygiene products and a number of other things you can just pick up for free at your local library as well, if you haven't got those. We have the next slide, please. We also have some partners in the financial sector, and we do banking in a lot of our sites. We have a big partnership with Barclays, who appear at 10 of our sites, all week, every week. And we also provide lots of different types of financial support. Some of that leads into wellbeing. But with expert partners, we provide a lot of advice that enables people to either stay connected to their bank account or enables them to get the advice they need, especially if a local bank branch is closed down. So we can have the next slide, please. And some of the other things we do as well, I could go on and on, but I'm just going to stop with this one. But we also do a lot of stuff in the holidays with children. So we have a massive holiday activity program for teens, and that includes sort of food provision as well during the day. So we have about 1,500 kids that come and visit us across each holiday period, and they do all sorts of different creative activities. And it's all centered around them having fun, learning a new skill, but also getting some good, wholesome food. So we can have the next slide, please. And then finally, Ceri talked about it, but we do volunteering as well. We're probably the biggest volunteering organisation in Suffolk. We have all sorts of different types of volunteer role, some of them based in the library. So we have volunteers who go out into the community and visit socially isolated people in their homes, which is more like a befriending service. They also deliver books to those people. And, we're just coming to the end of a big volunteer-led campaign, Be Kind to a Kid, that we do with BBC Radio Suffolk. It's the second year we've done it, where we collect new toys and then we hand them out to sort of children in need. So you can see some of our volunteers there who are sorting through the toys, which are ready to be distributed to various different charities across Suffolk and beyond. And like I said, this year I think we've collected already nearly 3,500 presents. So that's a really amazing thing that we do, and it's fantastic to see them get into the hands of children that really need them. So that's kind of a bit of background about the library service. And we have the next slide, please. So, we're here today to talk about wellbeing, and one of the absolute fundamental things about Suffolk Libraries is that we have an absolute focus on wellbeing. I'm going to bring that to life by describing some of the things that we offer in a bit more detail. But one of the key things about our wellbeing offer is that it is very locally focused. Every library manager across our 45 sites is empowered to create services that meet the needs of their community. And I'm going to show you a video in a bit which sort of brings some of that to life. And that can be anything from a peer support group, specifically for men, which we're going to see a video about in a bit, in an urban area, through to sewing therapy in a rural library in a place called Thurston, right through to an LGBTQIA plus group for young people at Beccles Library. We talk to the community all day, every day. We understand what their needs are, particularly those local library managers, and they work with the community to create services that meet those needs. We were the first library service in the country to have its own dedicated wellbeing service that we run in partnership with Suffolk Mind and Suffolk Family Carers. And I'm going to again talk about our relationship with Suffolk Mind in a minute, in a bit more detail. But what that wellbeing service does is it has drop-in sessions that we host at 10 of our sites every week, where people can just come together and discuss their wellbeing, and that's facilitated by the Norfolk and Suffolk Foundation Trust and Wellbeing Suffolk, which is part of the trust. And you can come and talk about your wellbeing challenges and get some support directly there. We have a load of information on our website, and then, like I said, we have lots of different peer support groups. We do physical exercise. We have an alcohol cessation program. We do loads of different things as part of that sort of wellbeing umbrella. So if you go to our website, suffolklibraries.co.uk, you will find a lot of information about different ways that we can help and support you, because there are so many that I could be talking on here for quite a long time. But yeah, the website's a great place to start. So we go to the next slide, please. And the other thing that people don't realise is that we're a charity. And a part of the Suffolk Library story is that about 13 years ago, the council wanted to save a lot of money and wanted to shut half the libraries in Suffolk. There was a big public uproar, and the council then decided the best way to cost-effectively run the library service was to outsource it, and Suffolk Libraries was born. And ever since then, we've been a charity that's grown and developed the library service in some of the ways that I've described, which is how we've ended up here. So we can have the next slide, please. And as I've already said, we have 45 sites across the county, and this is particularly relevant. I know a lot of people maybe on this call will like to have a dispersed workforce, but potentially living in different places across Suffolk. And you can see on the map of Suffolk here, we have a fairly even spread of sites across Suffolk, all of which offer variations of some of the support I've already described. We have obviously quite a reasonable concentration of libraries in East Suffolk as well. And sort of most close to Sizewell, there's Leiston and Aldborough libraries, for example, which are great friendly locations where you can pop in and get some of the sort I've just described. We also have mobile libraries that do around sort of just under 500 stops every month and reach out into sort of really rural communities. And then we also have the sort of white dots, our pop-up libraries, which appear in a community setting sort of once or twice a week and host, again, similar activities that you get in a static library, but also are done in partnership sometimes with the district council and provide other types of advice and information from them, but also from other partners. So like I said, there's support everywhere. We traverse the geography of Suffolk, and you can pretty much find a library in every main town or even some of the bigger villages across the county. We have the next slide, please. And one of the things that we do particularly well is we're not just sort of a one-man band, as it were, in terms of the way that we operate with our staff. We work with hundreds of partners across Suffolk in all sorts of different ways. I mentioned the East of England Co-op earlier in terms of the hot drinks. I've talked about Barclays already. But like I said, we work with lots of really small, hyper-local charities to develop services that meet the needs of the community, as I described. But then we also have some big county-wide partners, some regional partners, and even some big national partners. And those organisations enable us to deliver specialist services through those partners who obviously have that key specialism. And we have a growing relationship with the local NHS as well. A big part of their strategic focus is to get much more of the support they provide to people out into the community, where it's often easier for people to access. And also some of the locations obviously that we provide don't come with some of the caveats and sort of some of the sort of signs that sort of scream intervention above the door, which makes the library a really safe and neutral place to come and sort of access help and support. So we have the next slide, please. So I've already sort of stressed this quite quite a lot of depth, but people really are at the heart of our story. We have over 400 professional staff. I'm going to talk about some of the training that they received. Ceri talked about sort of mental health first aiders. we sort of do things in a different way to that in terms of the way we operate at Suffolk Libraries. Where on the other end of the scale, where we're trying to help and support people from and prevent them from becoming to a place where they get stressed and then start moving down the mental health continuum to sort of develop mental illness or serious mental illness. And mental health first aiders are amazing, because when people get to that point where they're developing a mental illness or serious mental illness, they have some training that enables them to spot that and help that person go and get some support. What we're trying to do, and what we could do for your colleagues, is help them stay in a place where they're able to feel good about themselves and feel good about their well-being, and prevent them from going down that sort of continuum. And like I said, we'll talk in a bit more detail in a minute about what our professional staff do. So we have the next slide, please. So we literally help and support thousands of people every day. It's something we're very comfortable with doing. And like I said, in some cases we do it with partners, I've already described. In other cases, we just do it directly on a one-to-one basis. And there are so few places available in the community these days where there is help and support available readily. And as a universal service, you can walk into any one of our sites on any day, and there will be somebody there to talk to. And in general, they can signpost you to some support, or they can directly help you with some of the stuff that will be available in their local library. So we can have the next slide, please. So we're now going to have a video which kind of brings to life, I described it earlier, a Men Can Talk group that we run in Chancery Library on the outskirts of Ipswich.
I met Corin, and Corin basically said to me that there was a group going on that we could join.
Got involved, became a part of the group. I was a case study, as they say.
He told me it was a safe space to come and have a good chat and just chill out. I needed help, and sometimes you don't want to ask for it.
You can't force anyone to do anything, can you? And I understand it's hard. I've been there myself.
If you just want to come and have a coffee and just chill out, you don't have to talk. You can just sit and listen, and it's just a space where you can really be yourself. It's my outlet. Each week I look forward to coming on a Monday night. I enjoy spending time with all the people here. I think everyone here I can class as a friend.
The weird thing was, I didn't think like, oh, I needed to be involved in it. But once I was here for 2 or 3 sessions, and then here I am now. Just the way the group is, like how we've grown, like when it's a brotherhood.
Oh, it's been a lifesaver. I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not. I can just come and be myself.
I would do anything I could possibly do to allow and make this group continue. That's how much it meant to me. And it's all started from just walking through the door, doing the hardest bit. It's life-changing.
So yeah, hopefully that's quite a good example of some of the things that I've sort of talked about. Yeah, if we can have the next slide, please. And that sort of brings to life exactly what I'm talking about walking through the door. And that group came about as a result of the library managers having conversations with a disparate group of guys, all of whom had different challenges. And then she suggested that they came together and sort of started to meet and talk about some of those challenges. And then it's become a really powerful group that helps and supports those guys. So going back to some of the things that Ceri talked about earlier, particularly in terms of men's mental health, is a massive area that we all know, is incredibly sort of, I guess in some respects, underserved. And the library, albeit a fairly unlikely place for you to find that type of support, is a place that a lot of people go and feel comfortable because of what I said earlier, that it's a safe, neutral space. So those types of services got us thinking, if we have the next slide, please, about how we could work better with some of our local partners. And this is the bit where I'm going to tell you a little bit about Suffolk Minds needs and resources model. And what that is, in simple terms, is it's based on a type of psychology called human givens. And what it does is it tries to help you understand everybody has 9 emotional needs, which are things like, which are all highlighted on this slide: movement, privacy. Sorry, movement's not one of your emotional needs. Privacy, meaning and purpose, community are emotional needs. And then you have 3 physical needs as well: movement, sleep, and food and drink. And what their methodology does is assess which ones of those 9 emotional needs are being met, and which ones of those 3 physical needs are being met, and which ones aren't being met. And what the methodology tries to do is, by understanding that information, help you understand what things you can do to keep yourself in a place where your well-being is in balance, and hence you're not moving down the mental health continuum I described earlier to a place where you develop a mental illness. So much of our approach to working with people in the community is underpinned by this methodology. And we work very closely with Suffolk Mind in a lot of those support sessions that I described, but all of our staff are trained in this methodology as well. And it helps them support customers who have different challenges when they come into our site. So we can have the next slide, please, which I think says that anyway. So get a bit of my house on. So yeah, so all of our staff have that training, but that really got us thinking about what else we could do. So one of the really exciting things we've been able to do as a charity over the last 5 years is we're on a bit of a journey, and we love the Suffolk Mind methodology because it really does work. It's something that people can understand. It's a really practical way of sort of understanding your well-being, and it's a good way of sort of understanding some of the things that you can do to improve it. So we thought, why can't we use technology to help people better understand their well-being, but also connect them with stuff that can directly help them? So we can have the next slide, please. So now we're going to have a video that shows a piece of technology that we've created over the last 5 years with 3 different rounds of funding, firstly from the Nesta Foundation, then from the European Union, and most recently from the Arts Council. And this is a product called Discover More.
Discover More is an AI-driven platform that is designed to improve well-being in the community, in your business, and in an infinite number of other settings. It works with 2 simple steps. Once a user has built their profile, they will answer a series of questions based on the Suffolk Mind Emotional Needs Audit. This will help understand their well-being needs. The information provided can then be understood by the artificially intelligent algorithm, and recommendations made from the data sources it is linked with. By recommending, for example, events, activities and services, in this case in Suffolk, individuals can then find ways to meet their personal well-being needs. The possibilities are endless. By adding new data sources, you can support your employees with their individual needs. Councils and public services can better understand and provide support to their communities. By building their profile over time, individuals can be empowered to take action to create a better future. They can chart growth as their needs change and are updated. Setting up the user profile and completing the emotional needs audit takes just a few minutes, and the recommendations are fed back immediately. Every time the process is completed, the results are mapped and can be viewed through the dashboard. As the algorithm gets to know the user, it can then adapt and make even more targeted recommendations. By adding more relevant information, the algorithm can gain a much clearer picture of the user and their needs. Discover More will also assess their on-screen behaviour as they move through the process to gain an even deeper understanding. As well as rich data and information for the individual, there is an extensive back-office manager dashboard and reporting suite. This provides valuable information on aggregated users' habits, preferences, and results. These will enable public authorities or services, for example, local councils or the NHS, to better understand the well-being needs of their communities. For businesses, these tools provide a valuable insight into the well-being of their staff and how to best respond to current and future needs. This is a whole new way to provide personalised support for our communities and their well-being needs. It can be used in lots of different ways and tailored easily to support any organisation.
So, in creating that product, which is about to launch shortly, like I said, we're really excited about its potential to sort of connect people to stuff that can help and support their wellbeing in the community. And obviously, there's a much wider set of uses for it as well. And we've alluded there to workplace wellbeing. And we've got a pilot that we've had funded, hopefully, by the Health Innovation Network, which is funded by the NHS directly, with a couple of significant employers in Suffolk. And we're about to do a trial with their employees to make sure that the system can be as fully utilised as possible in that sort of environment. So, and I'll be sort of keeping Ashley and the team here sort of informed of how that works out. So we have the next slide, please. So yeah, so discover more for us, as was described more eloquently than I would describe in the video, you know, is a really great opportunity to help connect people to stuff that can improve their well-being. And this little diagram just sort of shows you in very basic terms how it works, which was already described on the video. And like I said, we want to use it to support the general public. We're working with the local NHS as well to potentially use it as a pathway to social prescribing through the local primary care network in Forest Heath, for example, and the GP surgeries there. And if those of you who don't know what social prescribing is, it's when you go to see your GP and they may assess you as having the start of possibly of depression, and rather than prescribing you with some drugs to treat that, they might prescribe you with, you know, getting out more into the community. And if, for example, if you like walking, suggest you go out walking more, which would be your social prescription, or recommend a couple of other things you could do that weren't drugs, but there were things that changed your lifestyle and enabled you to sort of address the problems you might be having in a different way rather than just becoming reliant on drugs. So, and this platform obviously can help in that journey as well in terms of helping connect people to things that improve their well-being. So we're very excited about its potential. We will continue to talk to Ashley and the team about sort of how we might be able to help and support businesses around sort of Sizewell with it. And like I said, when we've got this project sort of up and running, we'll be able to sort of share more information. So if we can have the next slide, please. So, you know, I'm nearly there. And one of the things that I haven't mentioned, which when I do presentations, people always say to me, you haven't mentioned books once. We also still loan millions of books, you'll be relieved to know. We loan about 4 million items a year, and some really important information, which isn't necessarily linked to well-being, but is another sort of underpinning factor in how we all feel about life generally, is that we're a massive provider of loads of amazing free stuff as well as the books. So if you have a library card, you can have free access we're the only UK library service that offers this. You can have free access to LinkedIn Learning, which is an amazing product, has over 16,000 online courses on it. So again, for your employees, for yourselves, amazing resource. You can also have access to Press Reader, which has every national and international magazine and newspaper on it for free, and loads of magazines as well. There are 3 million free tunes available on our website, suffolklibraries.co.uk. You can also get loads of and audio books on there, as you'd expect. And on top of that, there's also some, I mean, it's not Netflix, I'm not going to oversell it, but there's also some excellent sort of art house film streaming and stuff like that as well. So there's a great package online. If you haven't got one, get a library card. If your colleagues come to Suffolk from outside, get them to get a library card, because it will save them loads of money, and there's loads of amazing stuff available digitally and physically, as I have hopefully described. So for us, as it says on this slide, you know, it's so much more about the positive real life stories that we help people to create, as well as just the ones that they borrow from us. I hope that's been informative, and sort of you've sort of taken something away from that. And if we can have the final slide, there's just a few stats on there. And then I'm going to hand back over to Ashley.
Thank you so much to both Ceri and Bruce. I'm kind of hoping, if nothing else has come through, it kind of, from a project perspective, has hopefully kind of outlaid how seriously they're taking this subject. And it is great news. You know, Ceri and I have been chatting, as well as my team, for a number of months about the various contracts that have gone through the procurement process on to compete for, and all the back office stuff. So to actually be able to finally say one of them is awarded, and it's a proper local firm, is fantastic to hear. And fingers crossed, more positive news on that soon, because, you know, as we often try to get across, this project is happening in Suffolk. So many things need to be done by Suffolk businesses or regional businesses, those who understand the landscape, those who understand the geography, the traffic, or just the people. And if you're offering healthcare services to people in Suffolk and Norfolk, well, look, we kind of know we're an unusual bunch. We know what we like, and we like what we know in East Anglia, don't we? So actually being looked after by people that get that is so important. So really, really pleased, and thank you to Bruce as well. And I'll echo Bruce's point at the end. The whole Discover More platform, I'm very excited by it, because I think we do get lots of businesses approach us and say, look, great, we want to do more in these various areas, but how do we do it? You know, how do we start it? Because actually, as an SME, maybe, I don't know, 20 or so employees, looking after those people, it would normally be the responsibility of a person who also probably does the health and safety, or probably does the accountancy or the finance, or, you know, that people obviously have to wear multiple hats. Actually, charity and organisations like Suffolk Library, Suffolk Mind, and others across the region, all of whom are engaged with this as well, they've got these services that are available that you can tap into and get such brilliant results. So really, really pleased that Bruce is able to outline that. And hopefully lots of you have probably learned something about Suffolk Libraries. I know I've worked with them in various guises for a number of years now, and they're a fantastic organisation. Right, so questions as always. Please do chuck questions on the Q&A if you've got any. Currently, surprisingly, we have none on the Q&A, but I know there's a couple of bits in the chat box. And I think broadly this was probably answered, Ceri, but if I can ask you to come online, because one of the questions has been asked, you know, what is being done regarding suicide prevention at Sizewell C? Now, I know there were some bits in there, and maybe this question was asked beforehand, but do you just want to emphasise what you're doing?
Yes, so I think a lot of it is understanding why construction is where it is in regard to this. What are we doing wrong? What is not right? There are a number of papers that are out there around this. You know, a lot is around the hours that people work, the fact that people often work away from home, so they don't have their support around them. The fragility sometimes of the work because they may be on short-term contracts. I've seen here, you know, people can be here one day and gone the next, which can be upsetting for everybody around. Isolation is a huge thing. We do know that we will, whilst we want to employ as many people locally as we possibly can, Suffolk doesn't have thousands of scaffolders and electricians and welders, etc., etc. So we do know we will be bringing people in from not just the rest of Britain, but also from other parts of the world, and that will increase, obviously, the concerns there of isolation, people being cut off. So what we're wanting to do here is to ensure that we have support for people, that we try to make this a home from home. So we're looking at it, as I said, in a holistic way. It's not, you know, mental health first aiders have their place, a chaplain has his place, an employee assistance program has their place, bringing in a positive, psychologically safe workplace has its place. Looking at you know, the accommodation. So if you're not aware, but we are taking over Pontin's Pakefield site in the new year, making sure that people, when they go back to their chalets, their rooms, that it's not a cell, that it's actually somewhere that is nice to live, that we put on events, that we have a wraparound for them, so that should things happen, they will know where they can go. They will have a point of contact that can then maybe pass them on elsewhere. It's one of the things that, so I'm from Wales, I'm an incomer, I've lived here since, well, just over a year. And the thing that has blown me away about Suffolk is, and from Norfolk as well, but is the amount of services and charities who have contacted me and have said, we want to support your people, and there's a huge wealth and breadth in there, and so it's looking at, you know, our people are going to be very, very diverse, so what will people want? You know, I meant, you know, talking about, can we have allotments, can we have a communal garden where people can get involved? For lots of people, their happy place is a garden. You know, people have four-legged friends, so what can we do there? Can we bring in wellbeing dogs? Can we work with a charity where people can walk dogs if they've got the time to be able to do that? Events, so you know, what can we do? What can we do from men's groups? What can we do for women's groups? We have a load of networks on site. So it's just, it's starting that. We are at the beginning. It's educating people, not just in regard to I think we have to start sometimes at the basics, that we have to look at emotional well-being, that we have to look at ourselves and actually to understand ourselves. Some people are cup half full, some people are cup half empty, and they're happy in that. It's when things change, and it's us recognizing that things are not good, that maybe things are going on in my life that I'm not so happy about, and what can I do to help myself? What can I do to reach out to get help? So all of those things we will be putting in place, and we're starting that now. And I think when our wellbeing liaison officer starts, and I'm sure that will become a team, you know, that is all part of it. Thank you for whoever put in the chat about construction sport. So because I couldn't remember who they were, but I know about the campaign that they've just done. So they are looking to, you know, I've been talking to them around possibly they're looking at having a bike ride from Hinkley Point C to Sizewell C next year to raise money and also to raise attention around this subject. So we're looking at that. I'm speaking with England Sport. Sport is really, really important. We are building a campus on site. So we've got Pakefield. We're going to also have a campus on site. I think so, that will be open in 2027, but we'll have almost 2,500 people living on site. So it's looking at that environment there. It's looking at the amenities that we will be offering, and it's trying to make sure that it is almost like a home from home. If you're living away from home, what would you want? Would you want, you know, not everybody wants a gym, so can we have quiet rooms? Can we have a library area, etc., etc., etc. And I'm involved in those discussions, which is absolutely brilliant. So, you know, people are very aware. It's about healthy living spaces, healthy working spaces. It's about working with contractors like yourselves to ensure that they're on the same page that we are. That, you know, we're not spouting from the offices one mantra, and then actually what's happening on site is very, very different.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ceri. And I think, look, again, for anyone who's, we speak to a lot of businesses who kind of can't understand where they fit in. And I've now got another example of a dog walking charity, because I think if anyone ever just doesn't understand, you know, last week we got asked for people who are training companies with actors for this project, for example, to do with induction. You know, it touches so many different areas, and it's such a joined up process. And Ceri's final point, I was going to raise it, and I'm glad she did, is that the health and wellbeing team, so Ceri and the team that's looking around this, is not then just working in silo. They're across the whole project, because people are across the whole project. So it doesn't matter whether you've got to feed them, clean them, look after them, keep them healthy, keep them trained, whatever it is. Everyone has to look after this, and it is such a joined up approach. So it is so important. And yeah, I know we as our role with the chamber, we want to see as many local businesses working on this project as possible. By default, that means as many local people on this project working as possible. But today there's been the stat, we are one of the lowest unemployment regions in the entire UK in Suffolk. So it's not only do we not have enough people, we don't have enough people available in jobs. Now we have lots of pockets of society. Again, little flag to our previous webinars where we've talked about equality and diversity, and we've talked about the gender imbalance and all the things that the project's looking to do to hit those people that are hard to reach. Only this morning I've been emailing the team at Hoseley Bay about more opportunities for some of the inmates coming up looking at Sizewell. So there is opportunities out there, but actually we are going to see an influx of people. So how do you do this in the best way possible for those individuals, for the project, and for Suffolk? And it is that joined up approach and the way Sizewell are looking to do it, and intermingling local stakeholders like Suffolk Library, Suffolk Mind and others, is going to be so important. So no, fantastic. Thank you, Ceri. And I saw the construction sport thing as well. That was the team at Templant suggested that one.
Yeah, so community is really important, and I think that sadly there's a negative legacy from the 80s and Sizewell B, and we want to show the local community we've moved on from there. So we are wanting to engage positively with the community, and that's where volunteering comes in. It's about making sure that, you know, I mean, I have had somebody talk to me about the Vikings in Orange that everybody's really worried about, you know, that our people are going to come and rape and pillage and so on and so forth. So, you know, it is really important that we do everything that we can to ensure that that doesn't happen, but also give to the local community. I think the local businesses will be very happy if all our people keep their money and don't go and spend it out. So that's another thing, you know, when we do events is looking at, you know, who can we engage with locally that would profit them and also be very positive for our people. Yeah, so you know, and again, I am incredibly collaborative. I've you know, I'm very old and long in the tooth now, and I've made many mistakes in my life. And one of the mistakes that I really realised was I don't know it all. You know, we do have a huge wealth of people on site, hugely diverse, all ages. Our youngest apprentice is just 16, and obviously their needs from a well-being and health space are very, very different to somebody who is maybe my age in their 60s, who are, you know, maybe have not lived the healthiest lifestyle and feel that maybe they don't need to worry about their health anyway because they're over the hill and, you know, staring down at the floor. And there are people like that. So, you know, what can we do, and everybody in between, to answer their need, and regardless of how small that might be, you know, there may only be a tiny amount of people who might want to, you know, do some gardening, work on an allotment, walk a dog, but we still need to cater to them as well as to, you know, maybe people who would want to be involved in a fun run. So I don't know what the numbers would be, but you know, so there are some things that maybe are more positive than others for some people.
No, fantastic. Thank you, Ceri. All right, well, I mean, I'll do a couple more slides. If any other questions, you know, and comments in the chat, you know, chuck them through. And as always, we've got a few more minutes. But just as a general reminder, you know, we will share all the slides, obviously the link to the recording and all the contact details. So any businesses that are on that kind of like, no, do you know what, that Discover More thing that Bruce spoke about sounds perfect for us. You know, how do we get in touch? We'll make sure we share those details so that you can get in touch and understand more and be part of that process. Right, so just a couple of other quick slides. Many of you have already signed up, but we are now about to embark and start on our first monthly update webinars with the or led by the supply chain team at Sizewell C. So we've got Sizewell C's new as of July. So I don't know if you can still call Malcolm new at this point, but the Sizewell C supply chain director, Malcolm Dare, is leading some webinars alongside ourselves with heads of different parts of the actual project, both from a delivery, procurement, security and safety side of things. And the first one is this Thursday. We already have 650 signed up, which is wonderful. But if anyone on the call today has not yet signed up, please, you know, visit our website. You can still sign up. And it's very much part of our constant drip feed of information now. So we will continue these webinars like we are today that will look deep dive into certain little subjects. And we will continue our in-person events that will be very specific on different categories and packages of work. But actually, to keep everyone as generally updated as we possibly can, we will be starting as of this Thursday, 9 o'clock, nice and early, with our first update one with Malcolm. So please make sure you sign up. And within the next couple of days, you'll be able to sign up to all of those dates running through to April, which will be a regular theme beyond that as well. We're just agreeing whether we continue monthly or maybe go bi-monthly at that point. And of course, as always, thank you for attending. The key for us with these webinars and any future events is we need to hear from you. So if you are part of a business organization or a group that wants us to come and see you, speak at one of your events, speak at a lunch or a breakfast gathering or whatever it may be, lunch and breakfast isn't necessarily needed, don't worry. But we are always happy to come out and speak at any events. Same also, you know, as the project begins to develop its timeline, we will be doing more and more visits to businesses that are relevant for opportunities that are coming up. And in theory, we are hopeful that this side of Christmas, within the next week or so, we should see an update to the timeline of activity and the awarded contract activity that is hosted on Compete 4. So again, any businesses that don't visit Compete 4 very often, that is the platform for all expressions of interest at the start of the procurement process. Again, we did a webinar on this in September, so please, if you didn't see it, it's well worth listening into because it's very important as to how the procurement works. But on Compete 4, so www.compete4, as in FOR.com/SizewellC, is where you will see what's going to be procured in the next 6 to 9 months, hopefully soon up to 12 months. And then also what contracts have been awarded, which is very, very important, because if you're an organisation that provides a service but maybe is not the ones bidding for the contracts, you need to understand who's winning the contracts that are most relevant to you, and that's where our work comes to help you. So make sure you're casting your eyes over that and keeping a close eye on those awarded contracts and that timeline information as well. And please just reach out to anyone in the team. As I said earlier, we are there for you. So therefore, if you've got questions, got concerns, there's subject matters you want us to touch on through 2025 in this support program webinars, let us know and we will work with Sizewell to deliver them for you. But there is no more questions, which is very kind of everyone. So I will say thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you, hopefully some of you on Thursday, but if not, very, very soon in the flesh. Thank you.